But this morning we're talking about knowing your spiritual gifts. And so I think that this is really an exciting class. So if you're on live on TikTok, we're not answering questions really about like personal readings. We will answer a few questions, but of course, those who have tickets in Zoom have first priority for questions. I think this one is a really important class because so many of us feel lost. We feel like we don't have a purpose. We feel like life is just kind of meh. And we're kind of running around trying to figure out who we are. And I know I did this myself, especially after my spiritual awakening, where I was like, who am I? What am I supposed to do? What are my gifts? And I would look at my friends, my family, and their gifts were really apparent, like one would be a really good singer or a musician, or, one would be really good at this or the other. And I was like, I felt like I had nothing. And I remember going to my mom and I was crying to her. And I was like, this is just not fair. Everybody else has these spiritual gifts. They know, pardon me, they know, their intuition. And I can't even figure out my intuition, and she was telling me that, sometimes it just keeps taking more effort, that the more we use our intuition and our spiritual gifts, the more that they develop and the more that they come to us. And so this class is essentially helping you understanding the spiritual gifts that you have within. And the question that I want you guys to kind of think about during this class is, what would it be like if you could control your life in a way that would awaken something in your inner soul and help you experience a pivotal shift that would lead you to a more fulfilled life? um you know and that's kind of the question I want you to have on your heart with this, because even and we've all asked this question, like, do I have a spiritual gift? You may already know if you have a spiritual gift, but you might lack the knowledge on how to unlock or understand your gifts. Or how do you use that gift in the day-to-day life? We're in this very fast-paced world, and sometimes it's like, how do I use these gifts in the real world? Because like, one of my gifts is like this spiritual weirdness, and it's like, in your day to day, it's like, how do you really use this? And I will tell you, my intuition, is one of my spiritual gifts, and that gift really came through for me even prior to going down the spiritual path. A lot of people don't know this about me, but I own a manufacturing company called Boingo Baby. It's a little cloth diaper company. And my intuition came through with that business. We were getting ready to get a new manufacturer for products. We were interviewing manufacturers in China. And when you do that, you get samples and quotes, and so it's a process. It takes a few weeks to a month to get, sometimes longer, to get sample prices. And so we were getting all of these quotes back, and there was one company in particular that everything on paper looked good. Pricing looked good, samples looked good. But here's my intuition, one of my spiritual gifts, coming forward going, do not work with this company. And I'm like, back then I was like, nope, intuition, you're drunk. I'm like this really business badass chick. No, you're wrong. This is awesome. They have great samples, great pricing. This is perfect, right? And as we started to work with the company, they asked for more money and more money. And then they just disappeared with all of my money. And I was like, oh shit. And they're in China, so I'm over here in the US, not much I could do. And so that was a huge lesson. And you think that I would learn how to use my intuition, like, again, but no, my spiritual awakening and near-death experience literally came from me not using my intuition. So don't be afraid. Like, if you have spiritual gifts and you don't know how to use them, I had somebody yesterday, or was it yesterday or day before, when I had a live, they go, well, I've heard you lose your spiritual gifts. No, you don't lose your spiritual gifts. Your spiritual gifts are things that you are born with, and they're there to help facilitate your path on this planet, your journey on this planet, right? And so that's really, really important for you guys to remember. Now, some of you have seen my sacred dream journal, my spiritual journal, and it's very hard to trust. I'm still working on trusting mine. You see a lot of comments where it's hard to trust that. Don't, kick yourself if you're not able to listen to your intuition. Um, it's okay, right? It's okay. It takes some practice. And there's so many times that I don't still, my intuition will be like, do this. And I'm like, no thanks. And then I don't do it. And then I'm like, oh shoot, dang it. And sometimes it's just little simple, dumb things like buy this at the grocery store. And then I don't. And then I'm like, shit, I should have done that. Dang it. Now I have to go back to the store. So sometimes spirit, and creator and God and the universe will kind of test you with little stupid shit just to see if you're listening too. So kind of keep that in mind. But this is my journal, and I wrote about, I write things that I receive from God in this journal. And I'm going to kind of skip forward to the part, and this is kind of more about me, but I think this will resonate with you guys. After we choose our existence, there's agency and choice, and we choose that. It's kind of like, going down the college list of like all the classes in college. What am I going to major in? Is how you're choosing your existence. What am I majoring in? What am I here to learn? How am I going to grow? Right. So just think about it like when you're going through that college book and you're like, okay, these are the classes I'm going to take. That's what it is. Now, when you start classes, the syllabus will say you need certain tools and books and things to get you through this class, right? And it's the same thing with the spiritual thing. And so I'm going to read this. There are many lives to choose from. Myself, I chose to be kind, but I didn't want to be a pushover. I wanted to be a warrior, but not to hurt people, but to help fight for what is right. Because the path that I chose was very difficult, I was given many gifts to help overcome the odds, potential obstacles. Not everyone is given such gifts. With great risk comes great rewards. And your rewards will be diverse in many, or your gifts are diverse in many. Use them wisely. And so what this is really saying is that those that have chosen the harder path are going to end up with the spiritual gifts and more spiritual gifts to navigate that. Now, there's some people, and you guys have met these people where it's like, oh, they have a charmed life. They've never really had anything super bad to them except for like stubbing their toe, right? And you're like, how do they have such an awesome life and mine's so chaotic? Well, the answer to that question is that they probably chose to learn like one or two lessons this life. And those of us that have a more chaotic, crazy life or things that happen that are quote unquote awful are those of us that chose the harder classes when we were signing up for this life. So think about it like as when you were in, signing up for your college classes, we're taking the AP classes, we're taking, well, that's high school AP, but we're taking the honors level classes when everyone else is like, yeah, I'm going to skate by with, pottery 101 and English 101, and like they're taking like the basics, right? And so if you wonder about that, because I know for me, I used to be like, God, I'm a good person. Why is this all happening? And now it helps me understand, like, yeah, I'm a good person. And the chaos that's happening is helping me learn and grow as a spiritual being, because we're here for a very finite amount of time. And then we go on to whatever the destiny is after this life. And we only take our lessons. And if you're not there learning, you're not taking anything with you. You're not growing as a spiritual being. And so we look at these spiritual gifts, and to me, it gives it a different perspective of, oh, these spiritual gifts are not just for me, they're for me to help others and myself and help me navigate the world. And the spiritual gifts that I have are going to be different than the gifts that someone else has, because they need different things, right? And so we can't compare our gifts to someone else's gifts, because it's not going to line up to our purpose and our path and our learning journey and things like that. It's just like when I was teaching about like spiritual anatomy, someone was like, well, you can't compare nose size because, those, of different races or colors will get stereotyped. And I had to explain it to her. I said, you cannot compare apples to oranges. You cannot compare someone from a Caucasian background to someone with an African American background, because that won't work. And that's the same with spiritual gifts. So don't go getting comparisonitis and comparing your gifts to others, or thinking you didn't get as many, or whatever. It's really important. But, you know, discovering your unique spiritual gifts and how to use them will help yourself and your life, your family, and others. And you guys who are here with this class are sincere seekers of further light and knowledge, that you're not content with what you're told to believe. You want to investigate and learn. You want to know more. You have this deep inner voice that's there saying, there's greater truth. There's something outside that box that's there for you. And that's why you're here, is because you're searching. And we are all searching for answers in this world that feels very confusing. Especially now, this world is very upside down. And we're seeking solutions that are not always easy to find. And, you know, I get so many people every day that are asking me for readings and asking me to show them their purpose and help them with their medical issues and things like that. And can I do that? Heck yeah. But the more important thing that I want to do is empower and teach people how to use your intuition, how to listen to messages from the universe and from God and Creator, and from your own eternal soul and your subconscious, your higher self, so that you can navigate this on your own, so that you don't feel lost and you don't feel like you have to find someone else to come in and fix everything. And I feel that way all the time too. Like every time I struggle, I'm like, who can I find to help fix my issue? When I realize that, you know, I'm the person that knows me the best, and I could use my intuition to get me where I need to be. I could use my spiritual gifts to get me where I need to be, right? And, you know, when I have these seekers, those of you who, you know, enter my doors virtually, I don't even have my physical office anymore, but looking for those answers, seeking the life purpose and treating those ailments, I notice that these people feel very lost, and they feel like this world and the society is not designed for them, because we are in a world that demands conformity and sameness in a very disproportionate and disillusioned way. And the world is not completely designed to support spiritual beings. And instead, it teaches us to hide our spiritual gifts, to wear a mask over imperfections, to wear a uniform of acquiescence. And many of us, out of survival, resign to that compliance just to survive. And we live in a state of discontent and anxiety and depression and all the other emotions created without living aligned to your purpose and your spiritual gifts. And that's really, really important. Because when you're something that you're not, your soul wholeheartedly rejects that rejection. It's a rejection. It's like this process of hiding your soul. It's like, I can't, right? And it screams out in protest. And then we start doing things like eating, drugs, alcohol, food, TV, shopping, anything to distract ourselves from this nagging feeling that something is not quite right, you know? But there's this shift happening, and a lot of you have been in this shift, and that's why you're here. Those with spiritual gifts are awakening. And it is time, my spiritual humans, to rise up and unlock your gifts and to use them. And that's why we have this class, because as we unlock our spiritual gifts, we unlock our soul purpose. And there's a great need in this world for healing and for understanding and for guidance and love, like spiritual superheroes. And it's time for you to use your gifts to change the world, to change your world, to change the world around you. And honestly, right now, there's no better time to become who you were born to be, to unlock the secrets that your body holds, because that's the map of the truth and the divine being that you've always been. So now is your time. And we're going to talk about this more. We're going to talk about what your purpose is and the signs that you have a spiritual gift first. So everyone is born with a spiritual gift. Some of us know them from the time we're born, and some of them are discovered, right? And as we discover, it's a process sometimes, but there's always indicators of who you are and why you're here, right? And what you're meant to do. So I usually, as I work with clients, especially when I'm doing soul purpose readings, I usually see a few different main soul purposes, and then the spiritual gifts that kind of come with those to support those spiritual gifts. Okay. So I see a lot of healers. Healers are those, for obvious reasons, kind of self-describing. They're here to help heal others or the world around them. They're here to change perceptions. They're here to change dichotomies. So a healer can look like someone who's a doctor or a nurse. It can look like someone like me who's a Reiki master. It can also look like an artist who makes paintings that speak to someone's soul. A poet who writes poetry that shifts someone's mindset. Maya Angelou, great example of a healer embodying in their purpose, right? You could be a musician creating healing music. I have a client who's really high up in the corporate world. She is healing the corporate thought processes and dichotomies around her, right? So there's many different ways to embody a soul purpose. We have a warrior of light. Warriors of light is actually, and let me pause here, you can actually have more than one of these purposes. I've seen people with 2 or 3. I've seen people with all of them. And so we got some people saying, I feel like I'm a healer. It's awesome. And I want you guys to explore that. So warriors of light are your spiritual superheroes, right? They are the people that are like, I'm going to stop a speeding train or save the kitten from the tree. They are those that are drawn towards working with the homeless, firefighters, EMTs. They will often, if they're in an unhealed version, be drawn to the armed forces or police work, things like that. And so, because they want to help save the world, right? So it looks like that in like the real world situations. Warriors of light, people who do a lot of TED Talks. There's a lot of warriors of light on TED Talks. They're trying to change the world, change the perception of the world. They're trying to protect others. They're the people who will stand up for those that cannot stand up for themselves, right? So philanthropists, things like that. So that's your warrior of light, someone that will be self-sacrificing of themselves before others. Sorry, Spirit's coming in with intuition, so let's see what's going on here. Okay, so what I keep hearing is, I wonder who I am. I wonder who I am. So if you're sitting there wondering who you are, just keep listening, right? Because that will come through for you. And there will be something that will just speak to your soul, and you'll be like, whoa, that's it, right? Someone in the comments says, I feel like I have gifts, but I'm afraid to use them. I'm afraid to use all of mine too, right? I mean, here's a great example of fear for me. I honestly, my gifts, and I've been told this by many people, this is not just me coming out and saying, haha, this is me, but many people have said this to me as well, where it was like, it made me examine myself, where they're like, I actually had a lady, she booked a call with me and she got on the call and she goes, I know you're a shaman. I need you to heal me. And I was like, excuse me, lady, I don't tell anybody that about me at all. I don't. And one reason I don't use the term shaman or medicine woman is I don't want to step in the space of spiritual appropriation, because I've never been trained by the tribes that my family is connected to, um, but also out of fear. Like, I don't want people to know that about me. So I choose the easy label. Oh, I'm a medical intuitive. That's easy, right? And so there's many times that we will be afraid of completely embodying our purpose, or even a little bit, because there's this great fear of understanding of who we are and what we're supposed to do. And someone also says, like, they doubt their gifts and they doubt what they feel. I doubt myself every day. Every day I'm like, am I freaking insane? Am I crazy? I went to one of my friends who's literally a doctor, and is like, do you think, because she knows about like my gifts and me, and I go, do you think I'm crazy? She goes, hell no. She says, you helped me diagnose several of my patients that I had no idea what to do with. And I'm like, well, if I'm doing good, then it's good. And she's like, you're doing good. She goes, I would let you know, I would let your husband know if I thought you were crazy, we'd do something. I was like, okay. And that really helped me, but you may not have that person to say, hey, you're not crazy. So let me tell you this, with your spiritual gifts, this is how you know if you need mental health support, because there are so many people in the spiritual realm that are like, no doctors, no medications, like fight demand. And then there's those on the other side that are like, only medical, right? And I'm kind of like in the middle, right? I'm in the middle of, if you need a doctor and a medication, go for it. If something natural is going to help you, go for it, right? But don't be extreme in either side. And we can easily go into those extremes. So this is how you know if it's spiritual and if it's mental health. Really simple thing. Spiritual is never going to tell you to do something harmful or hurtful to yourself or others. So if you're getting messages from, the universe or spirit or, whatever, going, hurt yourself, rob a bank, things like that, that's a mental health concern. If you're doing something harmful, we just had a good family friend who unalived herself, and in her letter she was kind of saying that she felt like spirit said it was the time to go. And I was like, shit, I wish I could have talked to her and told her, no, that's your mental health. That's not, get support, right? If you're scared to get support, there are psychiatrists and therapists who know about the spiritual side. Just seek them out, right? And they'll support you on both sides, right? But that's the easiest way to know if intuition is, it's going to be helpful, beneficial, protective. Don't drive your car down that way and then you don't, and there's a car accident. It's going to protect you. So that's really important to remember as you guys go. And if anybody ever defers you from seeking support from a qualified care practitioner on your spiritual journey, please question where they're coming from, because this is one reason why I'm actually trying to distance myself from the medical intuitive title. There are people who call themselves medical intuitives, and they're out there, telling people what to do for their health and why they're sick, and basically playing doctor. And I'm not cool with that. And that's not what I do. And they're dissuading people from going to doctors or getting health care. And I think that's so freaking wrong. So wrong, and that's not where I go. So pay attention to those things. Okay, other spiritual gifts. We talked about the healer. We talked about the warrior of light. We have the nurturer. The nurturer. These are the people who will be your animal rescuers or your people rescuers. They will typically work with animal rescue, veterinary, or they might be like a foster parent or an adoptive parent. They are the house in the neighborhood where all the kids go because they feel loved and supported. So these are basically like what I call the mother of many, where, and you don't this is not a gender specific role, but this is the person that will mother and nurture and support everyone around them. And everyone around them will feel like, I can go to this person and they're going to bring me a bowl of soup and give me unconditional love. Right. And there's some people going, this is so me. And I love the nurturer, the sole purpose of the nurturer. Um, oh dear Lord, I'm the nurturer running home daycare for 40 years. Yes, you are. You adopt all children as you own. You do give them back, but you love them all. See, yeah, that's a mama for humanity. So we got a lot of nurturers coming on, and I love that spiritual gift. Um, my anxiety prevents me from being fully the nurturer because it's like, because I'm autistic, if there's so many people coming in, I'm like, eh. But these are the people, like I have a friend who's the nurturer, and oh my gosh, like she makes everyone feel loved. She remembers everybody's names. I struggle with putting names to faces. So yes, someone said they were told they were a beacon of light. These soul purposes are your beacon of light, and they will draw people towards you. Kara says, I'm trying to wrap my head around my gifts. It's good to know it's not a mental issue. Most of you, what you feel is positive energy. Yeah. So if what you're feeling is positive energy and promoting positivity, promoting healing. Now, this is not to say on your spiritual journey, you're always going to be happy, right? Or that you're not going to have hard times and that you're not going to cry. That's not the same thing, but, we're just really being mindful that if the voices in your head are saying, go rob a bank or, go do something bad, that's a mental health concern, right? So let's it guide you from the negative. So that's awesome. Good. So yeah, you're allowed to feel anger, right? You're allowed to feel anger. You're allowed to feel sad. There's so much toxic positivity out there. Oh, you have to be love and light and perfect all the time. And you can experience, anything but love and light. No, that's bullshit. You can be angry. You can be mad. You can be sad. You can stomp your feet. You can have a bad day. We just don't want to live in those emotions. We don't want those emotions to become who we are, right? So that's all. Okay, so let's keep going down the list of other soul purposes that I've seen, because there's so many. And the other one that is a really big one that comes through for me is oh my gosh, I'm brain farting. Now it is the healer. We said the healer, we have the master healer. Sorry, my brain's, you guys will have to forgive me. I am on some medication to kill some stuff within me, and it's like giving me brain fog. Warrior light. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna just pull up my list because my brain's farting. I'm gonna get this on my Google. There we go, the list. The chosen size 7. Okay. Woohoo. Sorry, guys. I am well. Thank you for reminding me to use healing language, because I do forget sometimes. Okay, so we have the next one, the wisdom keeper. The wisdom keeper is the keeper of basically the light and knowledge. This is connected with one of my purposes. You will know if you're a wisdom keeper if you are the person who everyone comes to for answers. You will often be drawn to researching or accumulating knowledge as well. Typically, people who are wisdom keepers will love to read a lot, or they'll love to learn. You'll see them like constantly wanting to take classes, which can also, if you're the type of person that's constantly picking up hobbies or classes, can also be a sign of like ADHD or things like that. So, all of this conversation is barring any mental health diagnoses or healthcare concerns. So keep that there. But so wisdom keeper, and wisdom keeper resonates with a couple of people. They overflow with wisdom. And yes, you can be more than one. And so you will know because people will constantly be coming asking you for answers and questions. And this is like the key of how you will know that you're a wisdom keeper, is that they'll ask you a question and you'll be like, and you'll have the answer like that. And they're like, oh, cool, thanks. And you're like, wow, I did not know that I had that information in me. People who are wisdom keepers will typically have their third eye open as well, because they're connected to the universal source knowledge and wisdom. And so that is one of my favorite ones. And it can be a tricky one for people to have, because sometimes if you're a wisdom keeper, um, people will not be prepared to hear or listen to your wisdom, right? And when you share your wisdom and they don't listen, you're like, oh, why didn't they listen? All they had to do was and everything would be better for them, right? And so it can be a very frustrating one to have. Very frustrating. Okay. Truth bearer, often also called like a reflector. Um, that's, a really one that a lot of people will call, um, sorry, I'm just reading the comments. So the reflector, so someone who is a truth bearer will typically also be connected to the wisdom keeper. And the truth bearer are the ones that know truth. They will always see the truth. They are your walking bullshit detectors. They are typically also empaths. So they will just know the truth always. And so you'll be the person that'll watch the news and go, that's fake, that's fake. Or someone's like telling you a story and they're like, no, that's a lie. So those are your walking bullshit detectors. So um, this is a one that a lot of people have, like I said, typically connected to the empath. And the purpose of the truth bearer is to reflect and to bring the light and the truth to people. The truth bearers are often rejected because of cognitive dissonance and belief preservation, where people are like, I know this is what I want to be true. And so they will often not want to hear the truth. And the truth bearers will often feel really isolated or kind of lost, right? And so if you feel like you're a truth bearer, just know that you will often be like, oh my gosh, like, how do they not see this? Why are they not listening? This is so obvious, over and over and over. And so just kind of pay attention to that one, that it might feel a little hard for you to have that. Okay, so we talked about the wisdom keeper, we've talked about the warrior of light, the healer, the truth bearer, the nurturer, or the mother to many. We also have the guide. The guide is the one who guides others to the light. They are those that are literally here as a beacon of light. They're like the lighthouses, right? And so the guide will often be connected with other purposes. It's very rare that a guide will not have another soul purpose with them, right? So like the mother of many, the nurturer, will also have the guide to light, because their beacon of light is like that lighthouse that says, I will nurture and love you. Come over here, right? The healer will go, I will heal you, right? And yes, Candace actually brought up my next point. They can show the light within you. So they are typically also going to be shadow workers as well, because they're going to illuminate the darkness. They're going to illuminate what needs to be healed. So there's that illumination that goes on. And so that is why the guide is almost always connected with another soul purpose, because the wisdom keeper is bringing new truth and wisdom to light. The healer is bringing healing. So the question again is, if you have most of these pretty strong, yes, you can be all of them. I think for me, I have all of them. I've had many clients who've come through with all of them. And so that, I think, is pretty freaking awesome, right? Now this is really interesting because my brain is farting, and I wrote the chosen 7, but I only wrote 6 of these down in my notes. And so I'm actually going to have to go to Spirit right now and ask what the 7th was, because I didn't finish my notes and I never finished this task. So we're going to finish it live here. What is the 7th? This one sounds weird, but I'm going with it. The seventh is the creator of chaos, the one that unearths, the one that opens up the wounds to be healed, the one that transmutes and shifts energy. It is not just chaos, but it is also creation. They are creation and chaos all rolled into one. They bring about new things, new truths. Interesting. And new ideas. I've mentioned this one before. Okay. Yeah. And honestly, I feel like this is, like I said, I have all of these. So when I was younger, I was very chaos. Sam calls it the alchemist. Sam, I love that. I'm going to take that and add that to that because I think alchemist really embodies all of that. You know, and when I was younger, I brought chaos. And now it's different, right? And yes, yeah. And I think that this is a purpose that will be connected with other purposes as well, of bringing those truths and unearthing and changing things. And, you know, it's one of those that I noticed I do not do as much healing work as it resonated hard. That's awesome. Would chaos be unintentionally triggering people? Yes. Yes. That's actually what I do all the time. I trigger people and I'm like, oh, that was like so not my intent. Right. And I actually posted a video that I ended up privating, or no, I did it friends only, talking about what happens when we unalive ourselves. And I got people going, just giving me hate over it. And I was like, I was just trying to encourage people to hang on and follow their purpose, right? And so when we look at chaos and the alchemist, as Sam calls it, Sam, I love you for that. That's amazing. That it's not intentional chaos. And I think that that's the key, is that they are not intentionally creating chaos. If you are intentionally creating chaos, that's a whole nother story. Okay. That's not a spiritual gift if you're doing it intentionally. But if it's unintentional, or if it's part of healing, and let me tell you a story of how this happened for me. So I have a client, and I'm not going to go into too many details because I don't want to, breach her privacy. But she had a stalker who was actively causing her harm, who would actually hurt her. And she goes, can you help me with this? Can you help me heal? Can you put some protection around me? And so we went in and we did a healing session for her. And in the healing session, I also did protection. And in the protection, we set the intent that he would no longer be able to find her, that she would be clouded and shielded. And if he tried to find her, there would be chaos and confusion. And at first, he found her again. And then she ended up moving. And she got to a safe place that she loves and loves now. But that healing and shift, that alchemy, as Sam called it, Sam, I love that so much, alchemy. There was chaos that had to happen so that the universe could reorganize for her highest good and for her healing. And so think about that as you do that. A catalyst, that's another great term for that. I love it. Alchemist and catalyst. I'm adding that one too to the list, guys. Like, so the alchemist / catalyst. Okay, so we have like these main soul purposes, right? And I see them as the chosen seven. These are the main soul purposes, but we have, lists and lists and lists of other things, that come in and facilitate the leaders of light. I love it. Oh my goodness. I'm going to put that in there with that too, because I feel like you guys, like, you're helping me like with this. Let's see, / catalyst, leaders of light. And you know what? That's actually a soul purpose, the leader of light. So this is all combined in with that. The kids come in to bring harmony, balance, and love. That is so amazing. I love it. You guys are awesome. I love that we're working together with this. Son of a beach ball. Where is my list? I just closed my list. All right. Sorry, guys. I make notes, especially now because my brain is all farty from, sorry, we're just going to pull this up from the illnesses that I'm healing. So I apologize. I'm a little discombobulated. Okay. So we're going to talk about other spiritual gifts and things that come through to support those soul purposes, and how to kind of recognize the gifts that are there with your soul purpose. Okay. So spiritual gifts that you're going to have: gifts of intuition, gifts of empathy, gifts of healing, obvious ones. You're going to have wake up calls. Like today, I woke up with a vision and a dream of someone. That's a spiritual gift, right? Dreaming in visions. You will find some people, if you come up to you, they will start touching you and be like, I don't know why, I just feel like I need to touch or hug you. That is usually connected with a healer who has a healing touch spiritual gift. If you lose your way, does it make your gifts less powerful? No, it just means that you need to spend more time bringing them back and understanding them. I totally lost my way for a while. No worries. Yeah, we are never lost. Exactly. Just takes a while to kind of relearn things, right? It's kind of like if you have an injury, it takes a while to heal. Doesn't mean that you lose part of you. You're still there. You're just injured. So pay attention, especially if you're a healer, if people want to touch you. I have this a lot where people will come up to me like, I don't know why, can I just have a hug? And I'm like, sure, why not? And they're like, I just feel so healed or hugged. Like if I'm hugged or touched or near you, that will typically show that you have a healer's hands, a healer's touch. You might have sensations or pressure around your third eye. Seeing bluish purple colors when you close your eye or when you meditate. That is going to be a spiritual gift of sight, vision, wisdom, knowledge, typically connecting to the soul purposes that we talked about, of the usually the truth bearer, the guide, the wisdom keeper are going to have a lot of third eye symptoms. So if you hear a voice in your head on a question I have, would that be spiritual? Going back to the original commentary, if we have ruled out mental health concerns, if the voice is guiding you to do something helpful, beneficial, protective, yes. If it's saying, go rob a bank, that's my example for today. No. If it's telling you to do something harmful or bad or dangerous, that's a mental health concern, right? Really, really important. Indigo and yellow when you meditate. Ooh, I love it. So yeah, paying attention to that. Music and song is something that we've touched on. There is healing music. Light language is an example. I cannot remember her name. There's one lady on TikTok that has beautiful light language. My friend Susie does healing music. And sometimes it's light language. Sometimes it's just a singer. One of my clients is a prominent musician, I guess is the best term I will use, publicly well known. And she is a healer and she heals with her music. And she was finding that, and this is how you kind of will know, is that after singing or creating music, you'll feel very drained or exhausted because you're sending all that healing energy out, right? Sending that out to other people. So if your spiritual gifts are connected to being the healer, with music and song, you may notice those things. Or you may notice that people will say, I don't know why, but my soul feels like it's lit on fire when you create your music. Exactly. Another spiritual gift is kindness and friendship. This is usually connected with the nurturer. My friend Louisa is this way. Everyone feels like she's their best friend, and she is loving and kind to everyone. She remembers everyone's name, everyone's birthday, and she's always there, right? So it's really, really Interesting. So you heard a spirit guide telepathically, and it told you ambulance is going to turn the corner, and it did. That's a great example of time to listen, right? Am I able to sense or feel people's spiritual gifts while reading them? Yes, I can. But I will tell you that this is the one thing, guys. I can tell you what your spiritual gifts are. You can book a soul purpose reading for me. But here comes the part where I'm a really bad salesperson. You can discover your gifts on your own. You can communicate with your soul. You probably even know your gifts. There's probably been hints throughout your life. And you can discover that. Self-discovery is a really powerful thing. And I do want to empower you guys to discover and grow your gifts on your own and not feel dependent on me or someone else to validate those gifts. While it's fun and I love doing spiritual readings and soul purpose readings, I don't want you to feel disempowered that you can't discover that on your own. Okay. So that let's keep moving on. We have kindness and friendship, connection to animals or nature healing. When I'm doing soul purpose readings, typically this person will come in. If you guys know about me, I have my pen basket. And typically here's my brown pen. It's literally almost always sitting on the top. But brown will typically come through with this person when I'm doing a soul purpose reading. And it tells me this person is very connected to the earth. They typically have a very active Vasandhara or star chakra. And it tells me that they heal of the earth and with the earth and by the earth. And so they are typically also connected to the nurturer or the healer of some kind. Knowing, understanding, discernment of truth. That's my whole goal, is to empower you guys, to empower you. I never want anyone to put me on a pedestal. That's why I'm very open and honest and raw about my journey, because I don't want you guys to think that I'm this perfect person trying to tell you to be perfect. I'm a very imperfect person who's very awkward with my gifts, but I am trying to share and empower you guys with them. And so going back to this, we have a whole list, not a lot of time left, so I want to get through this. So knowing, understanding, discernment of truth. I guess you guys can probably guess that's connected. There goes my nose again. That's connected to the truth bearer, guide of light, wisdom keeper, typically. Probably the alchemist will always also have that, right? Feelings in the body. Somebody actually just said tingling going up in the body, and that's literally the next one on my list. Feelings and sensations in your body, running up and down your body, over your body, sometimes ringing in your ears. Now, I'm always going to say, discount medical concerns first, make sure there's nothing going on. But after you've discounted a medical concern and you're getting ringing in your ears or sensations, pause and listen and say, okay, Spirit, what do you have to tell me? Right? What do you have to tell me? What do I need to know? Okay. Language, we kind of touched on this earlier, light language, but also the ability to learn new languages is a spiritual gift. I personally am very drawn to learning new languages. I love it. I tend to be fairly decent at it, although Mandarin was really hard, but I will say German was the hardest one I had to learn. Goosebumps, that's a great one too. So these honestly, I need to come up with some resources for you guys to work through these gifts. We'll get there. So we have that prophecy, knowing the future, your dreams, visions, knowings, downloads. Those are usually connected with most spiritual gifts. So like how that would embody in certain gifts. The wisdom keeper would have wisdom and knowledge pertaining to the future. The warrior of light would have messages that would be protective of people. I also get violent dreams, Darely. I'm sorry, I'm mispronouncing your name, I'm sure. We'll have to talk about those another time. I just don't have enough time. But so when we look at those dreams, wisdom keeper, warrior of light, the healer will get knowledge or dreams or premonitions on how to heal people, or plant medicine or things like that also will come through with that. The truth bearer will have dreams of truth, knowledge, where they'll see the truth in a situation, things like that. So kind of give you an idea of how those work. So, okay, we're going to keep rocking and rolling so we can stay on time here for class. Dreams and interpretation of dreams. So you're going to have a little bit different than prophecy and knowing of the future, but also similar, because sometimes you can have dreams of the future, but sometimes you'll have dreams that will tell you to do things. So great example of this, my cloth diaper company, I woke up from a dream with the idea for my product, and then I went out and manufactured it, right? And so that's really, really interesting how that works, right? So you can predict people's death and you hate it. I have that one too, and it sucks. Past life healings, yes. So dreams and interpretation of dreams. You also have people say, hey, they'll share their dreams with you. What do you think? What do you think of this? And you're able to give them accurate knowledge of things like that. So I'm going to keep rocking and rolling. So we can get this visions can be similar with, it can be kind of connected with prophecy and dreams. It can be separate. The best way to describe visions is if you've seen that old TV show with Simone, oh my gosh, I'm brain farting her name, That's So Raven, where you'll be just there and then all of a sudden boop, it's like something completely new opens up and you see a vision. So to give you an example, like this is actually one of my darker visions, but I walked into a local grocery store, and then all of a sudden everything in the store changed, and I was seeing a vision where the grocery store was dark and it was destroyed and ransacked inside, and there was very little food. And then spirit said, this will be the future. And then whoop, and then it was back to normal. I was like, oh shit. You know, and so that's exactly, Candace said she saw visions and audible dreams. And so remember, we're always making sure that mental health is stable, but if it is, visions can be very important, connected to many spiritual gifts, right? We talked about spiritual healing, so the ability to spiritually heal. So these would be the people that are naturally born healers, which is one of my gifts, where you like, I can touch people and they're healed. Not always, but seems to be something that happens. So if you're able to like just naturally heal someone versus going and taking a course on healing, right? Do I ever have dates? No, I never get dates with my dreams, and I am usually highly inaccurate when it comes to dates. I've seen similar dreams, Candace. So I'm going to keep moving because I want to finish this class. Smelling, you know, this comes in with the, oh my gosh, it's one of the Claire's, Gustince's taste. Anyways, I'm brain farting the Claire right now, but where you're able to smell things that lead you to making intuitive decisions or knowledge or things like that. So my son actually has this, my oldest son, and I remember one day he goes, I smell fire. And we're like, there's no fire. There's no fire. We looked all over the house. He goes, I smell fire. And he goes, go check the garage. And we went into the garage. And as we walked into the garage, we saw the water heater was sparking. There was no actual fire, but it was sparking and getting ready to catch fire. So he literally saved the whole family, right? And so it will be a great memorial photo. So that's one. Whispers of the spirit. So whispers of the spirit, some people will say like this is like voices in your ears or telepathy. This is a prompting or a message. Typically it will sound almost like an audible voice or a voice in your head saying like, hey, watch out for a car accident, or don't step there, you're going to trip or fall, or call your friend, or things like that. You smell energy also. Okay, yeah, that's another one, right? You smell flowers when someone you know passes away. So that's connected to that spiritual gift. Weather and environment. There are those, usually they're shamans or, you know, ones that don't know, that can shift weather or environment, can feel the weather environment. They're highly connected to weather. And so there's that one. We've talked about knowledge and wisdom. You smell near ones who have passed. I do that with my grandpa too. I can smell him. He's usually when he comes through, he smells like dirt and sweat, and kind of like gardening, you know. So that's a really fun one to have. So these next ones will kind of connect a little bit with some of the gifts, but knowledge and wisdom. And we've talked about the wisdom keepers, but just knowing things, knowing knowledge. So an example of that was like I was at my dad's house and I noticed his shower was leaking. And I said, Dad, we need to fix this shower leak, because I'm hyper vigilant about mold because we've had it in our house and it can be really dangerous. And so he was like, okay, well, if you want to fix it. And so I was like, okay. And I went to the store and I just knew exactly what to buy. And I bought all the tools and I knew exactly how to do it. I was like, okay, like Spirit was like, you just scrape off, the old caulking, you clean it up really good, you recaulk it and then let it sit for 24 hours. And I just knew. And I told him, I said, Dad, don't use your shower for 24 hours. He goes, how did you know how to do this? And I said, I don't know. I just knew. That's a great example of knowledge and wisdom. Guidance and teaching. So connected to the guide, but this ability to teach people in a way that they will understand, right? When you're very young, you would cry when it rained or you felt worried. Yeah. So that's a great example. Um, Great example. So guides and teachers, these are people who will be really connected to being professors and teachers or giving guidance. So counselors and therapists as well, really helping people find their path, helping people learn, things like that. So yeah, all gifts I think are blessings. We just need to learn how to use them to benefit, bleh, benefit, benefit. Sorry guys. Discovery and creation. These are the inventors, the ones that discover new ideas and new paths and new knowledge. This is like Pasteur learning how to pasteurize milk, or Tesla discovering all this amazing stuff about energy, right? Typically, those that are in discovery and creation are the alchemists and the catalyst. They will typically be neurodivergent, so autistic, ADHD, something like that. And of course, we know that the alchemists, the catalysts, the leaders of light will be those that are typically ostracized or harassed or have negative outcomes to what they're doing. Okay. And it just is what it is, because remember, cognitive dissonance, things like that. And then we also kind of touched on the last one I have on my list, which is art. Healing through art is amazing. And, this mug is art. An artist created this. And to me, this mug feels healing just by holding it, you know, just by holding that and, knowing that I can have some nice tea in there, but the shape feels healing. You put your energy into things, right? I would also kind of lump in this one that I didn't write down with art is more also food. Food is very healing. And if you ever want to understand how food is healing and the emotions and energy in food, go watch the movie Ramen Girl. It's Brittany Murphy, and for some reason, it's one of my favorite movies. But you will see how the spiritual energy is transferred to food, and why sometimes when you eat food, you feel loved and nurtured and supported, and sometimes you don't, right? The source of your food, the energy, the blessings that you put into your food. So typically, those that are connected with healing with food or spiritual gifts with food are going to be nurturers or healers. Okay. So yeah, pay attention. I love Brittany Murphy. So sad that she's no longer with us, but that movie Ramen Girl helps you understand and understand the beliefs also about the Japanese, about how food and energy. And honestly, this is one thing, and we don't have a lot of time to go into this, but look into Dr. Masaru Emoto, who is also Japanese, who understood the language of water and the emotions that go into water, into food. And it's one of the reasons I feel that we are in part so sick now, is that so much of our food is made and handled by machines or by people who don't love their jobs, don't love that they're creating good food. They're just, doing it because it's a job, versus someone who does it because it's like a passion. and it's really connected to them. Another fun movie, I think it's from the 90s, is Chocolat, um, about that, where she makes chocolates that shift the emotions and healing of people. And exactly, it's profit. And, it's one of my hopes, that maybe with the high gas prices we're having right now, is that we're going to have more local, passionate farmers and cooks and chefs come forward to support the people, and that we'll have that local food. But while I am a bit of a hypocrite with this, I'm always very busy and I rarely cook from scratch anymore. I would encourage you to cook from scratch if you can. And if you can't, yeah, exactly. Prayer, bless the food. And this isn't a religious prayer. It doesn't, even if you're not religious, it doesn't have to be religious, but prayers and blessings over your food will change the energy of it. So that's really important. So the spiritual gifts, you know, recognizing your spiritual gifts, understanding your spiritual gifts, integrating them takes time. And don't be frustrated that you don't know how to use your gifts yet or your purpose. You haven't embodied it. It's honestly a never-ending journey. And learning and growth is a constant thing. And if anyone says, I am, up here, I'm the end all be all, I have all the truth and knowledge, I'm done with healing, don't believe them, right? Don't believe them. Understand that it's a continued process to connect to and activate your gifts and to use your gifts. And the best thing that you can do is to listen to your intuition, to follow what you're guided to do and where you're guided to go. And remember what I said at the beginning, there's no better time than now to become who you were born to be, to unlock the secrets that your body and your soul holds, the map that you have inside of you, to the divine being that you've always been. Yes, it's a journey with no final destination. So it's time, guys. Now is your time. And this class was meant for those that have spiritual eyes and ears to hear and see beyond their current reality, who have open hearts, who seek further light and knowledge. And I'm so grateful that you guys joined me for class today and that I was able to teach you guys. And I'm very grateful for everyone who has been supportive of Spirit Fluent. And yes, so we can all heal Mother Earth. And I will say that the tribal elders have calls for a special prayer today. And I will end with this, that if it is in your heart to send prayer and healing and meditation to the earth and to the inhabitants of the earth today, to please spend some time doing so, because the earth and the inhabitants definitely need love and healing. And honestly, the best way to feel loved and healed is to share love and healing, because what we give, we receive back. So if you are able and feel aligned to doing that, just know that the elders of many tribal nations have called for healing and prayer. So I'm glad that you guys enjoyed class. I appreciate you for being here. And we have a lot more classes coming up. So please come join them. And if you want to watch classes until then, my YouTube, it's full of classes. I think I have like over 50 videos that you guys can learn stuff. I appreciate you guys, and everyone have a beautiful day. Thank you so much for Spiritual Humans for being here, and I will see you guys again. We have another class tomorrow. If you're interested in joining that one, just go check all the classes, because almost all of my classes are free, and so many for you guys. So I love you guys. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.